All right. Hey guys. Hey everybody. Welcome to Jerry's Live. As always, I'm your host, Amy Gardner-Dean. We're having a little bit of a lag between the Facebook crew and the YouTube crowd, but it sounds like everybody's on par now on both platforms. So, greetings. Welcome to the show today. The show episode we're going to be doing today is JL 128. That's JL 128. If you're curious about any of the items that we're going to be showing on the show today, you're going to go to the jerrysartorama.com website. You're going to type in that keyword JL128, JL128, hit search, and that will bring up the list of items that we're showing. We just wanted to do something just with AOC starting next week, or the Carolinas, fun today, just because we're going to all be crazy busy next week, aren't we, Katie and Will?
Oh, yeah.
Amanda, well, I guess Frida doesn't have the week off. Frida's going to be there in the trenches with us. So we thought we would do something kind of with a very inexpensive art supply, the water-soluble oil pastels, and just something fun like pop art. Next week at Art of the Carolinas, or I guess next Tuesday, we're going to be kind of kicking that week off. Will and I will be on the show next week, just briefly talking about what we're going to do, because there's not a full-length show next week. It is going to be just kind of the kickoff teaser, and then we're going to be doing pop-ins all next week. That Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Art of the Carolinas is going on. Thursday through Sunday are the actual classes and workshops. Then Friday through Sunday are the huge retail extravaganza that takes over all the ballrooms and the big entry kind of throughway with vendors. It's a really, really awesome time. So we'll be doing kind of the teaser for that this next Tuesday and telling you a little bit about what to expect that week. If you're local, or if you're not local and you're coming to Art of the Carolinas, we're going to be doing a Jerry's Live crew, kind of cast crew and viewer meetup that Saturday night and it's at the private dining room, Katie?
Yeah.
So we'll post a sign so that you know where it is, but it'll be kind of in the restaurant there. There's a private dining room kind of in the back. It'll be at 8 p.m. Saturday night, and Saturday's the 16th, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So 8 p.m. Saturday night at Art of the Carolinas at the hotel. We'll be doing that meetup, and we'll bring a bunch of different projects we've shown on the show over the years, so that you can actually see some of the work that we've done on the show kind of live and in person, because it's very different on the camera. So we've just saved some things through the years just as kind of in case we ever need to show them again. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of bring them all, and we'll have seats and some goodies and drinks and just have a fun time together. So if you're going to be in the area and you're going to be coming, plan on stopping in to do that. You'll get to meet the ladies behind the scenes. And yeah.
I apologize if I'm a little...
Katie will be a little bit frazzled, but that's okay because we could have wine. So
Use your stronger drink.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, be prepared for that. We'll start that off next week. So let's just go ahead and get to this and kind of some pop art fun. Pop art is a movement that started in the 50s in the United Kingdom, came to kind of overseas, so to speak, here in the 60s. Pop art is kind of the marriage between kind of commercial design. It's the marriage between just normal everyday things that you see. It kind of has some commercialism. It's got some popular culture. That's where this saying pop art came in. It's an immersion of things that are not necessarily your traditional arts. It's when people like Andy Warhol started using silkscreen, which was considered really a commercial application, art application. It wasn't as much considered a fine art application. He started, instead of doing paintings, he kind of eased off on doing paintings because he could do more silk screens where you could do a series of prints. So people used all sorts of industrial paints, people used collage, people used just all sorts of cool things. So if you think about pop art, you're going to think about Warhol and think of the Marilyn Manson or the soup cans, right, guys? You're going to think about Lichtenstein, Roy Lichtenstein, where he took things like DC comics from the 40s and 50s and actually blew them up, changed some of the things that were going on in them, and kind of made them his own. Think about David Hockney with the Splash, all sorts of different things like that. Klaus Oldenburg with the giant, if you've ever been to Minneapolis, there's the sculpture garden, the gigantic spoon with a cherry on it that's like in the middle of the sculpture park that's lake size, right? So those are kind of the iconic things about pop art. Think about Wayne Thiebaud and the cakes and the pies and the gumball machines. Just things that take interesting things in popular culture that people wouldn't necessarily think of, first as art. It's not like a Rembrandt kind of a thing, and taking them and making them their own and making them art in a different sort of way. So we thought, since that's kind of more loose and fun and immediate, we would take something that's a very loose, fun, and immediate medium, like oil pastels, and specifically water-soluble oil pastels, to see what you can do with those to kind of loosen up and have fun in a very inexpensive way. These sets are like, what, ladies? Can one of you guys find out the price on these sets? I know I went down to the retail store to get a couple extra ones just in case I ran out of a color, but they're very inexpensive.
Free's getting it.
Thank you. So I've got two sets here. We're going to be using some of the Mimic Squirrel brushes. These are the Mungio Aquarelle Oil Pastels. Katie, if you can do the overhead, I'm going to show the two sets that I've got. There's a pearl color and just kind of a straight up traditional color. The pearl has mica in it, so it's very shimmery. It's kind of hard to open with one hand. Okay. So here's the traditional set. I've kind of put them out here so we can swatch them. Let me move that up. Yes, and I'll pull it back down.
I can actually zoom in a little further.
Swatch that so you can actually see these colors, and then we'll do a couple scribbles of the pearl just to kind of see the difference in that. So let's just show these first so you can kind of see.
Push them up a little more.
Yes.
You can see.
Hold on.
Can you still reach if you push them up a little more?
Yeah, because Will was very sweet and lowered the table.
So the pearl set of 24 is $21.99.
Okay.
The regular set of 24 is $8.99.
Oh, awesome. All right. So it's definitely something inexpensive and fun. So this is the color with the oil pastel. I can take that and actually move that out and use it almost like a watercolor if I want. You can thin it as much as you want or as little as you want. So it makes that nice, fills that paper where kind of those, this is cold pressed watercolor paper, where kind of those little ridges end up being, because of the texture. It's very, very vibrant. Make sure I get all of it out of the... Okay, so these are very much like, there's the oil pastels and then, oil, water-soluble oils, oil paint. These are not, with oil pastels, remember folks, these aren't a drying oil base. They're a mineral oil base or mineral wax base, so it's never going to fully oxidize like drying, like regular oil paints do. But they've got kind of an additive that makes it so with water it thins it down and breaks the bond from the waxes that are in it and allows you to kind of float that pigment. Ooh, that red's really pretty, isn't it? So these are non-toxic, so it's something fun where you can take these and make it a family event, other than just, kids like to get sticky with it, but it washes right off. Now this one's white, so you're probably not going to see it, but I'm going to... Wow, I can see it pull the color off to the side, so. All right. If anybody has any questions, just jump in, ladies, and then we'll do a couple of these pearl ones, and we'll just start.
What do you think the drying time is?
This as far as just it drying, like where it's not wet from the watercolor anymore. The dry time on this, okay, remember we just talked about that it's won't ever oxidize because it's a non-drying oil, right? But as far as using it like a watercolor here, it'll dry roughly the time, you know, depending on your humidity, what like a regular watercolor will. Depending on kind of how much water you're using, your humidity, all that good stuff.
Are you going to show the blendability and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we'll work on that with the thing. I'll
Yep,
try
I
some
figured.
multiple techniques just to kind of, so you can kind of see. Oh, look at how nice and rich that black is. That's going to be really nice for a nice heavy outline. Look, Katie, this is your color.
Deal.
I love.
That's a pretty.
I love it.
It's almost like a cobalt green to me.
I'm a sucker for anything in the blue-green.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now see, okay, so when you have sets like these, you typically don't have a lot of natural tones. The nice thing about this is we've got multiple natural tones, some browns, some nice, that's almost like a nice green gold, which is one of my favorite watercolor colors, a nice raw sienna. You've got some more natural tones where, especially since this is water soluble, this is going to do something that a regular oil pastel is not going to be able to do, where you can actually use it like a watercolor to mix colors, right? You could even take these. I keep wanting to use this other hand. Don't do that.
it.
All right, so you can even take these, and I'm going to take that color that Katie likes, and I'm going to use that brush, and I can actually use it to paint right off of the pastel itself. Now, you could take this and actually wipe the wax because it's got a little bit of kind of like a wax outer coating because that part's kind of dried better. So let me get the tip where it's already been rubbed off. So see, you can actually use it like that or wet this part of the paper. This is all wet right here. And that really goes on really nice and smooth. Where that paper is wet, you can see this is dry here, and then this part's wet. Just with that, the brush isn't really even damp anymore because I've kind of blotted it out. But that's the wet paper. That's how much coverage you can get from just that little bit of scribble on the water.
How are these different from the Neocolor 2?
Um,
Carandache.
I think those are also a water soluble, aren't they?
They are.
It's just going to be a different manufacturer, different pigments that they use. Because I've not used those, Frida, I can't say kind of the application difference, like smoothness or whatever. I would assume they're gonna, we don't have any. We only had the regular Neocolor when we did the oil
I think
pastel
we-
episodes.
Went over them a while back, but we may have given them away.
All right, well, let's look at these pearl ones real quick. I'm just gonna, that's dry enough. Let's use a couple, what colors? Shout a color out, ladies. Katie, you want your teal?
Uh-huh.
Copper.
I don't know if there's a copper, but we can see what one of the lighter colors. Okay, so here's the, ooh, wow, look at that.
As
Look
a
how
reminder,
nice
are
and
you
slippery
using
that is.
watercolor paper right now?
Yes, we are using Fabriana watercolor paper.
And that's cold press, correct?
It is cold pressed. So you can see that texture in there where there's kind of the little divots in the hole where it's not really sitting down in there. Let me see if this will be close to coppery enough for you. A little.
Angela says use purple.
Purple. Dark purple? Yes. Okay. See how pretty and shiny that is. Woo. The pearl's got a little bit more of that, a smoother wax in it, right? Almost like that when you get the lipsticks with the mica in it, how they're kind of slipperier, right? That kind of fills in the gaps a little bit better. Let's try one more. Let's do this really pretty dark blue as well. You can see there's these bigger pieces kind of left because this is smoother. The piece is kind of a little softer. The pieces do come up. All right, can we see how shiny and pretty that is? Oh yeah, you can see the sheen, can't you? Let me do this. See the sheen? Oh yeah, okay.
You see on the purple really
Yep.
well.
Yeah, I pushed on that a little bit harder. Let me push
Would you varnish work with these afterwards?
With these, you can use an oil pastel fixative. This Sinelia makes the Artegne oil pastel fixative.
D'Artagnan.
Yep, that one.
D'Artagnan.
See, now I messed you up.
You did.
You're welcome.
D'Artagnan, right? Like,
Okay.
D'Artagnan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is made specifically with resins that can make it. If you go back, if you're interested in oil pastels, go back and watch some of our previous oil pastel episodes. When we do the shows, the girls pin up at the top the episodes. We've got two lists. One are the one's the in order, right? Episodes from start to finish. Number 1 to number 128 will be on here tomorrow. Then we've got another one where it's got it listed by medium or topic, or, you know, if we've had guests, they're in multiple places on there, so it's easy to find. We talked about oil pastels and we went over all the fixatives, and you can see on one of the shows that I actually put my hand on a work that I did and rub it to prove that it doesn't come up. All right, see how nice and that's so silky and smooth. You can really see that pearl in there.
I want to say we went over that's one of the ones that we went over the Neo colors on too. If they were interested in that.
Yeah, I just don't remember that we
It was one
had
of the oil
those
ones. I think so.
I thought that we were maybe out of stock on them or something. I don't know. It's worth a shot. It might be. I've done so many episodes at this point, Katie, I can't remember. I just can't remember them all. Okay, so see how nice and smooth that is? You can get a nice flat color with it. But look how far that'll travel.
Can you use these in conjunction with watercolor paints?
You could use these in conjunction with watercolor paints if you're going over the dry watercolor. I mean, you could go over wet watercolor, but just keep in mind these are oily. They've got a mineral oil in them, so it's could potentially, without practicing, get glumpy and sloppy and that kind of thing. These would be perfect for mixed media because you could do anything with them. Just remember that you're not going to be, because there is this oil in them, once the paper is dry, you're not going to be able to attach other watercolor over it real successfully unless you're dry brushing, right? Dry brushing very, very dry watercolor. And you're not going to, because this is going to be, being the waxy, a little bit more opaque under normal circumstances, you're not going to be able to see that kind of beautiful transparency that a watercolor is. All right, are we ready to try the Portrait? Has everybody kind of seen what these can do as far as you can really pull that color? I feel like Vanna White of the water-soluble oil pastels. Ooh, ah. All right. All right, if more questions come up, just holler. Okay. So I think I'm going to just use the traditional color ones, and then we can kind of stick some of the pearl on and embellish it. Katie, show me how big the screen is, or my window is here, and all.
It's hard to tell.
Oh, that's
I
okay.
can zoom out if you need to.
Yeah, let's do that because I'm gonna make it more of a kind of a vertical. Okay, that's good. All right, yeah, because this would be very bright and bold, so it'll be easy to see. All right, I'm gonna take a lighter color and kind of make my window for this, just so you guys will be able to see it, and I'm making sure this is gonna be in the picture plane too. Oh, good. All right. Katie, you got it right on the nose.
I did it on purpose.
You got the mad zoom skills. Okay, so what I did was took a funny picture that I sent a friend when I was painting something. And it's kind of pop artish.
Yeah.
I've got a, actually, oh, you know what? Well, let's see which one is easier to see. That one's dark. That's really hard to see. We'll do the lighter one. Okay. So I'm going to take a really light one to start with because I'm not going to necessarily put a whole lot of washes on this. And I want to kind of find the features before I go any further, right? So this is light enough. Actually, let's switch to a natural tone. Let's make sure you guys can see it first. Can you see that? Kind of. Okay, find where the nose and the mouth are. Eyes, forehead. We got this paintbrush here. This is just a hand. I'm kind of ghosting it in with this. The nice thing about oil pastels is even if you make mistakes, you can usually push over it and fill kind of over the color. So it's a nice way of kind of correcting mistakes. So if you work very lightly for your underdrawing, it typically is pretty forgiving.
When you're framing this, would you frame it behind glass?
Yes, I would mat it. You're gonna have to mat it to keep it up off of the glass, right? So to frame this is what the question was. You're going to want to mat it first so that you've got, distance between the work, some airspace, so to speak, right? Between the work and the mat, and then you're going to frame it behind glass or plexi. All right, so let's see. Just kind of ghosting in the glasses here that we got. And because this is pop art, this doesn't have to be like super the best drawing ever that I've done, right? We're just kind of putting some features in. We can kind of correct and change as we go. I've got glasses too small, so as I said, this is an easy way to correct and change as you go. Okay. All right. So close enough for government work, right? What? Have you never heard that saying? Katie, have you heard that
I
saying?
haven't, so I was laughing at it.
Okay. All right. So, let me get my earth tones out here. This, you can kind of hold it up along here and see, yeah, those will work pretty well. I'll get my white out so I can lighten some things that I want to lighten.
Are you gonna try to stick to the colors that it actually is, or are you?
No, we're going to get wild with it. We're going to get wild with it, but I like kind of some more natural tones for some of it. And then we'll start, especially in the shadows, we'll start getting a little wilder with it, okay? All right, let's see. All right. So, got kind of these more natural tones, then we'll get darker and brighter. Let's stick our yellow on here first, just so we've got that in our brush, right? Because I think what I'll do is wet that down and then I'll let it set and come back in.
Do you have to do anything special to keep these fresh, or do you find that they dry out?
No, these aren't going to dry out. All they might do is have a little bit of wax bloom. Some of the waxes will come to the surface, right, and will get cloudy. You take, let's see, let me find a dark one. Okay, so actually the green one. This is really easy to see on this one. So see how that part is bolder here? Can you zoom in for just a minute, Katie? That part's bolder there. And then this part's cloudier. If I turn it like that, you can probably, yeah, you can see. Okay, so all you do is take that and wipe it. See how that kind of chalkier outside comes right off? There's very limited. These don't get anywhere as from the regular oil pastels, like especially student grade, get almost like white looking. So that just cleaned that off. So that's all you really need to do before you work if you want to be able to see the color a little more clearly. It's still going to stay nice and, you know, kind of softer because it's this really nice soft water soluble pastel.
Also, if you want to get a nice point on them, take some saran wrap so that you're not touching the pastel with your finger, and pinch and hold just for a little bit, and your body heat will
Nice.
make it nice
I
and
didn't think
pointy.
that's a good trick.
Does that at Frida, is that work that on
As long as
the
it's
water
a wax,
soluble where it's
as long as it's a wax-based pastel, whether it's oil or water-soluble oil, it'll work.
okay. All right, so there we got that. See how nice and bright that is? So as that's kind of drying, I'm going to come back in. Well, I'll wait till it's a little drier to the touch. And I'll come back in with a little bit of white to
Do
kind
you
of...
work light to dark, or does it matter?
With this, it's a little, especially with the water, it's better to work light to dark because then you're not going to have staining and then try to come to light, but you can kind of do both. With the regular oil pastels, I will use a mid-tone ground and then I'll work lighter and darker on like a mid-tone. But because these are water soluble, it's a little bit different. Okay, so there's our okay. Take this. All this yellow is still. Now see, some of this yellow kind of is crumbled and stuck on here. I always keep kind of a sharp palette knife nearby so I can kind of scrape that up rather than it get worked into the fiber, or worse yet, kind of get stuck on something and carry along. With this, I'm just kind of getting a...
These particular pastels, they're oil-based, so they don't have any wax in them, correct?
No, they do have
They
wax.
do have some wax.
It's a mineral oil. Okay. The question was, is there any wax in them? This is made out of a mineral oil and waxes. Okay, so it's not your traditional drying oils like oil paints themselves, but it is still a type of oil. It's just one that does not dry.
Okay, so with that information, Rhiannon would like to know what happens with that wax on the paper after you use the water to dissolve it.
It doesn't dissolve all of it. There's still going to be some wax. When you use this and then you use the water, unless you're, the question was what happens to the wax after this. Unless you're really thinning it down to next to nothing and there's still going to be a little bit of wax, you're going to have some wax there. It's just going to sit on the top of the paper. Okay.
But it's not gonna be like a white wax, right? It's still gonna remain.
No, it's gonna. These
Color.
are pretty good about not getting like super white. It's the student grade regular oil pastels that you
It's not
really
like it separates out.
have a
when
lot
you
of
see, like,
problems
the
with.
floating wax.
No. There's not gonna be that issue. These are very soft, so you have to be real. I'm used to a little bit firmer regular oil pastel, so you need to be a little bit. Oh, I have that's buckling up. Oh, there's a lump of paper down under there. It's the black paper. The nice thing about this is since it's a water soluble, I'm going to pull this paper out from under here because, yeah, I might. It's lumpy. Yeah, I'm going to need it from the Other side too. If you can take that one, then we should be good. All right, perfect. That should be good
You
for
getting shadow
now.
images?
Huh?
You getting shadow
Yep.
traces?
Yep. Forgot this was multiple pieces of paper. I put the stuff down. Okay. All right, make sure we've still got this in here enough. Slide it over. Okay. Just fire the questions away as you guys get them. Sorry.
So would you use this on canvas?
Canvas is going to probably be primed, right? The question was, can you use this on canvas? If it was on something like a Yes canvas, where it's got a primer that's meant for water media, this would work. Traditional oil pastels will work on canvas, and you could use solvents to thin them, but you just need to be real careful about applying real thick layers, right? Okay. The bad thing about the water mixable is you want to wash any pieces of color off your hands, because if you sweat, you're going to go back and touch the watercolor. What? Seriously, you'll go back and touch the watercolor paper and make little prints. Okay. Other questions while we're just kind of working along?
No, they're pretty much ask them as they get them.
Okay.
Everybody's just kind of watching now.
Okay. That's fine. Trying to see which is darker and which is lighter. I thought there was a lighter violet in this. Maybe it's in the other one. Ooh, it is in the other one. All right, so we're jumping ship. These are lighter, so we're going to go back in with some of these pearlescent ones.
Do traditional oil pastels also contain wax?
Yes. Mineral waxes. Depends on the brand as to what kind of wax, but they'll generally specify what kind of waxes.
Will citrusol dissolve the wax?
The biggest problem with citrusol is that it's going to absorb into your paper, or whatever, and that tends, because it's citrus based, it tends to be very
Oily.
caustic.
Yeah.
The question was, will citrusol work with regular oil pastels? It's better to use something like a mineral spirits, or even the Chelsea Classical Studio medium. That's way better for that kind of a thing, because you're going to have issues with that. And the citrusol is, oops, that's too much the skin tone. The citrusol is kind of a yellowy color, right? So what's that going to do to white paper? So always with that kind of thing, if you don't have somebody to ask, test it on a scrap piece somewhere, rather than have this great work that you've got going along and then, oops, there it is. There it went.
Now, explain what you just did with that palette knife.
I thought that color was lighter, and it turned, because it's pearl, so it's shinier and lighter. So, and in putting it down, I realized it was way darker than I wanted, so I took my palette knife and scraped it up. So it was that dark, and then I took it up, because I didn't want it on there anymore.
Do you think that water-soluble oil pastels are the best way to get into pastels, or is there one you would recommend over it?
For pastel, okay, so are they asking for pastels or oil pastels? Because there's pastels
You just
in
said
general
into
just means
pastels.
pastels.
Probably oil pastels.
Pastels are a general stick medium, right? So you want to decide the best thing you can do is you want to decide what are you wanting to do with this medium, right? What types of look are you wanting to get? Are you wanting something more smooth that's like watercolor? Are you wanting something more, you know, kind of thicker and chunkier that you can kind of blend with solvents or even with your finger to get something smoother?
She said oil pastels.
Okay. It depends, okay? Because, okay, so this is Amy's opinion only, but there's not really, because these are kind of more of a niche product, there's really not the color variety if you're wanting to do full-scale works long-term with this as a regular oil pastel, right? Because some of the regular oil pastel sets have, 75, 100 colors, something like that. Now, that being said, you can thin these down and make them more like watercolors so you've got more play with them. So it more depends on, it'd be good to go back and look at those episodes that we did and see kind of how some of the products are used and some of the artwork we did with them and kind of decide, okay, so this is probably more along the lines of what I'm wanting to do with this. So you kind of know, you know.
It sounds like she has some allergies. So
Okay.
she was thinking the mineral oil that she would not be that she's not allergic to.
Oh yeah, no, that would be it'd be a great way to get something that's a little, you know.
And she's trying to avoid some solvents as well.
No,
so
that's
sounds like it would be a great intro
well,
for
and,
her.
okay, and so you can use regular oil pastels and never have to use solvents.
Right.
I don't use them. I don't like this. I like the oil pastels because of the kind of, I just used a smoother paper than this, or canvas. I like the look of it being more crayon-y, and more modern. So that's not a concern to me, that to make it smooth, you know. This is actually one of the first times I've ever played with these, in all honesty. It's just not because of lack of interest. It's probably more time constraints and stuff like that, you know.
How would you compare the lifespan of an artwork with the water-soluble oil pastels compared to, say, acrylics or oil paintings or even traditional oil pastels?
I don't know. You would want to look at the manufacturers and what as far as what is going to be the archivability of work done with these types of mediums. You're going to want to look at what light fastness ratings about lost that off the table. The manufacturers offer. Also, you know, you're going to want to do things like properly matte and frame it and seal it. You can use UV glass to give it even longer life. It's just like any other medium. It's finding out that information from the manufacturer about the product to know what life the product's going to be able to give you. Sorry, I'm just getting some little chunky pieces off of here. Do we have any other? Questions? These you could also go over with the traditional oil pastels as well. This doesn't have to be limited to only these. trying to get the some of the stick back from where I'm going to do this with less water to kind of move this, but not make it so wet, because I don't want to saturate the paper where then it's not going to dry in time for me to keep working over it. And be careful when you're using this, when you blot somewhere, that you don't have little chunks, because I about picked up a different color chunk to transfer it right onto the paper. That could have been interesting.
Is there, excuse me, if we make a mistake, is there a way to erase that mistake with these, other than just going over it?
There is not a way to erase it. You might be able to if it's a light color. You might be able to let it dry and then put a darker color over it. Kind of scrape back whatever's on there, right? As well as you can, and then put a darker color over it. But there's not going to be a way to actually erase this. It's pigment. It's just like watercolor going down into the surface, but it's thicker, right? So it's going to give you kind of a lot more fight, I guess, would be the... I'm just very lightly kind of wetting this enough to pick up the pigment to move it. Go ahead and move some of this lilac too. Ooh, that's pretty. Ooh, that was the sparkly one. You can see it in the... That lilac's the sparkly one. That kind of gives it a neat effect. All right. Get all the sparkle out because that's got mica in it, so I don't want to pick that up and move it. Holler if you guys have other questions.
I've been just kind of watching.
Sorry, I hope I'm not leaning over this too far.
No, you're good.
Okay. This is kind of... Yeah, I like that. Okay. What's this color like? Let's put a little bright on here. Let me get a smaller brush and we'll see how this kind of play these together. a little bit hard on those. This is a very weird angle to be doing this at with the table lowered.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to work, but it's also I'm using the
You wanna get,
products at a different angle, and it's
Yeah.
like it's hard to judge how much is too much and how much isn't enough, you know?
You really like what you did with the lips there. The colors are nice.
Thank you.
that's the fun of pop art.
Yes. And this is wet over here from the yellow still, so I'm gonna take advantage of it and push that around a little. The wrapper started sliding. Okay, so I've got my hand over here that I need to kind of work on, but let's see what else we've got here. Frida, it sounds like you're thinking. Is there a question coming?
Ian and I were just having a discussion about possibly removing the water-based oil pastels using a kitchen towel and a heat source, like, say, a craft iron.
I don't know. That would be something to try, definitely. There may be, you know. Ha. All right. How are we doing on time? Because I can start working on some different.
You got 15 minutes left.
Okay. All right. So would people rather I continue on the eyes in this part, or work on the hand and the brush, or what would people like to see so that we kind of?
I think you should do eyes so we can continue with last week's lessons.
Okay.
When you are blending, would you use a palette knife to blend, or you just use the brush with the water?
You could smush it together with pieces, I'm sure, and a little bit of water, right? And use it, but then how are you going to pick it up? It's not like you can use it like a stick anymore either, you
Right.
know?
Everybody wants eyes.
Okay. That's fine. Hold on, I'll be there in just a minute. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. All right. Poor Sneezy Will. Yeah.
That time of year.
I know. Tell Will he can't get sick. Better stop that. All right. All right. My palette knife. If I'm in the way, just yell because I can't see super great. So I'm
Okay.
kind of leaning over. So just, if I get too much in the way. And there's highlights that kind of block a lot of this. And what I would say with this is either, you could probably use masking fluid to then pull this up afterwards very, very carefully with a very small palette knife. Or just use a regular oil pastel after the fact where you can kind of put those highlights in, because the white is not going to like be thick enough to show really easily, if that makes any sense. And I'm not going to be able to put it on. We can try it over the lips and just see. It's not quite as...
Rachel has a good question. Once the water is added to the oil pastel, after it dries, will it still have that same sticky tackiness that an oil pastel does, since the wax is still there?
It depends on how thin you're making it. Will this still have that sticky tackiness after the water dries? Is what she's asking. It depends on how thin you're making it. If you're not making it thin at all, it's not gonna. It's still gonna be kind of goopy, right? I can still feel in this area. You can still feel a little bit of just that kind of, you know, tackiness to it. It's not bad, but it's not ideal. It's not making it not, you know, unless you're thinning it way down, it's still making it so that it's got some, which I personally prefer to have them thicker. And it applies very differently over this where it's kind of wet still. It doesn't like add on layers as easily, it feels like. Yep. You can see I'm using colors that you wouldn't normally use for a shadow, for the shadows here, just to kind of make this a little bit different. I liked how that orange went, but this like nice fuchsia color is just so brilliant. I wanted to kind of make that bolder. If it's fuchsia or like a quinacridone, I don't think it. Hold on. It's 41B. Oh, it's magenta. Okay, that makes sense. Now it's sticky. Okay, I'm going to try to put something on here for the shine. Just kind of block that in so I can see something, but it's really not. I would want to go back over this with a regular oil pastel, definitely. That's not quite thick enough for my preference. Now, how I said I would not use regular black for when we were talking about the eyes, but this is very different. This is pop art, so you want this to be nice and bold, and it's fine to use black if you want. It's fine to use kind of whatever. Okay.
Do you tend to mix these oil pastels when you're blending the colors? Do you blend them on the paper, or do you blend them on, say, a separate sheet of paper, wet them down, and then use that almost like a little palette to paint on to the paper with?
Okay, so the question is, personally, I guess, would I use this separately, like as a palette, almost like a watercolor pan? Would I use this as to mix on the paper here? This, to me, oil pastels are a very immediate medium. They're not a kind of a, they're designed to be used here, in my opinion. I would definitely do it on the paper as opposed to on the side, but that's my personal preference. That's not right or wrong. It's just, I like the boldness of the crayon-y looking strokes, and then how you can kind of, you know, you can see that I'm kind of softening it here with the water. So it would be your own personal preference. This is, again, a super inexpensive medium to actually take yourself and experiment with it a little, right? And just kind of see what's going to work best for you and what doesn't work. And, you know, you might think something would be horrible, and then you try it, and then you love it, and you want to, you know, proceed that way from then on. See how vibrant that black is? You can really get that to pop with just a little bit of stroke. Watch this. This will really make a huge difference. So it's all personal preference, Frida. It's just kind of whatever you get into and what you like the look of. To me, the beauty of oil pastels is that crayon look. So if you mix it on the paper, you can control how much it's mixed and how much it's not. If you're mixing it off-site, kind of off to the side there, it's all going to end up looking smooth when you put it on the paper, right? So that to me is watercolor. That's not a pastel. Pastel is more kind of that crayon-y look to it. I want to see, woo, start splashing. See how this reacts here.
We've only got a few more minutes.
Okay. Just gonna kind of can't tell which one this is. All right, well, get any last questions you may have in, guys, because we're almost done.
Let's clean up like afterwards. Would you just rinse with water, or do you need to solvent anything?
Rinse what? Just
Like
yourself?
brushes?
Yeah, you definitely want to use some soap and water with your brushes, just to make sure you get out, especially if you're wanting to use them on any other medium ever. Go ahead and clean them real good with soap, so that they'll be ready to go for next time, right? You shouldn't need solvents at all. This is designed to mix with water, so. Yeah, I want this to be smoother because I don't like how thick that is. So let's kind of mix that.
Oh, we'll post the end product to the Jerry's Live group as usual, right?
Yeah, sure, if I get time to finish it up. Just with AOC, it depends on
Oh, true.
kind of what's going on.
Eventually you'll get those.
Someday in a galaxy far, far away. It shouldn't be like a whole lot more time to. What I'd probably do is let this dry a little more and work more on the eyes. Just. I like a better highlight, so I would want to go in and fix that, or even take the highlights out of the glasses, and actually put the eye in a little bit better. Let's take, is this gray? Take this. Ooh, this is where we could take some of those sparkly colors and those are sparkly colors. Oh, these are really pretty. There's a lot of orange and peach there, so let's kind of put some of this in here. Ooh, and that's so nice and soft. You can really mush that down into that paper fiber so nicely. See, that one's so, the little crumble that came off is so soft, I can actually use it almost like a finger paint. You can really just push it down into the paper fiber.
About out of time.
Okay. So this isn't finished, but you can kind of see just some of the fun you can have with these. It's nice and bright. You know, and again, you can take regular oil pastels if you want and go over it, or just wait till all this dries and then make some of the more crayon-like marks over it to make it bolder and brighter, more fun. You can do whatever you want with it, right? It's just inexpensive, awesome, messy, happy fun. It's like being a kid in art class again, to me, right? Pop art, just the whole idea of pop art is just that there's not a limit. You can just do really fun, different, the brighter and more colorful, and sometimes the more kind of outrageous you think and do, just the better that it is. So, so it's something, you know, next time you place an order, add these on to give them a try. It's just fun for everybody. So, all right, so next week is Art of the Carolinas. We will be kicking it off at Katie's, because this is the week that's...
It's crunch time.
It is crunch time. So we will be broadcasting Tuesday, Will and I, and Will be with us for the entire, he'll be cameraman extraordinaire for the entire Art of the Carolina pop-ins. So if you come to Art of the Carolinas, definitely look for Will and say hello. He will be wearing goodness only knows what hats each day, because that's how Will rolls. And that will be JL129, and that we are filming exclusively only to Facebook, correct?
Yep.
Just, there's no way to go remotely to both platforms, so you will have to see it on Facebook. At the end of Art of the Carolinas, though, you guys are going to lump sum it into one nice compilation of the entire thing, and then put it on YouTube, so that if you missed it and you didn't get the Facebook alerts, you'll be able to see it after the fact on YouTube. So, all right, Art of the Carolinas next week. We'll see you guys then. Take care. And see you at AOC. Come up. I'm a hugger. I'm just going to warn you. One armed hug, though. Right? What a...